Hi and welcome to yet another quick review. So this will be hopefully short. It's about the suspension settings on a 1290 Super Adventure R. So this is my bike, once over again, Super Adventure R. Stock suspension. So I took the bike, I was wondering, like watching the YouTube videos, even when the professional riders kind of ride that thing, it looks like always for the bigger bumps, it likes to kind of kick the back of a bike up, and I found the road nearby here which would be just a dried clay, so it's a dry weather right now, so that is very stable surface in there at the moment. A little sand on top of it, but mostly just a dry clay, and it's really bumpy, so it's like a big bumps, you can call them almost like a jumps actually. And so it just one follows another in a random order, and it's about like I don't know 60 or 100 maybe even meters like that, I don't know exactly. And I've been like trying to go through that section really quickly and see how a bike behaves, trying different suspension settings. So what I noticed is that on a sport suspension settings, which is printed on the bike, the front is extremely slow to return, and the back is hard to compress but kicks you out and rebound. And so I got exactly what I saw on the YouTube videos, and the back of the bike is not actually absorbing the bumps, it's rather like kind of amplifies them for whatever reason. And I've been riding that section of course at quite a high speed, so almost at the limit of my ability, seeing like what the bike would do. And yeah, standing up of course. And when I tried like a different, and yeah, the only difference comparing to the stock suspension settings is what I have here. You see, oops, sorry, static. Only 4 caps are visible, so usually there are like 2 lines, so the forks actually kind of push down in my case, so the front of a bike is raised, and that is done to increase the stability, to reduce the head shake on the off-road tires and 21-inch rim at high speed, at acceleration especially, over bumps, things like that. So that's the difference in the suspension I have. And yeah, so I've been trying to tune the suspension and see like how can I improve the behavior. And also I noticed that on the stock preload, which is like 5 turns in from full out in the front, I've been getting a lot of bottoming in the front. So it's maybe not a hard bottom, but I've been feeling like on a steering like exactly what it's actually very like how to say, it went down through the travel a lot, and is like a much harsher resistance at the bottom, which almost like, I don't know, squashes you into the, I don't know, into the handlebars. That's, I could really feel that. So what I did is, what I added to solve that problem, and actually my trowel can be seen on the forks right here, so I have a zip tie over here. Let me see if you can see it. It's a bit too dark, but yeah, it's about, I don't know, 2.5 centimeters from the bottom, from the axle casting. This is where it went in the front for my testing. So yeah, so I added all preload in the front to help bottoming, and I added all the compression damping in and then 3 clicks out. So my compression damping right now at the 3 clicks out in the forks from full in, and that kind of helped the front. But the front still felt too soft in that setting of compression damping, so you can still feel what the front is trying to absorb the bigger bumps, those jumps, so it's compressing a lot, and the rear still kicks you up and hits you. Yeah, in some suspension setting I even had my like rear totally lifted in the air, and that was on gas. But you cannot hold the gas through all that section all the time, you know, at the hard acceleration, because the speed increases beyond what is, let's say, my abilities to go through those bumps. So it becomes even scarier. So I need to play with the throttle up, throttle down, but because the sequence of the bumps, they go so often, like once after another, distance between some of them are shorter than the length of the wheelbase of the bike. Anyway, so full compression in, 3 clicks out on the compression, that was what I did to help the front, and full preload on both fork legs. Regarding the rebound damping in the front, so the setting for sport mode was 7 clicks out, and that was too slow. So I increased it to 18, which is about half of adjustment setting range, and I went eventually to something like up to 23 or so. And when I played in that range, so I only defined the range, so it's somewhere between 18 and 23. This is what you can find, what is maybe better for you, taking into account what you're gonna ride this bike on the road as well. So right now I left it at 18 clicks out, I think, something like that, the setting at the moment. And that did help the front to behave actually better. So the front returns quicker, it actually provides some resistance while front wheel hits the bump, and does not allow the rear to kick up that high, because the front kind of is staying more, let's say, with more resistance on the ground. So because the hits in the back actually transfer to the front as well, and especially if you have a slow rebound when the front wheel has like a tendency to skip over, like not return back to the ground quickly enough. Yeah, so that's the setting in the front. So only 4 caps are visible, full preload in on the front, 3 clicks out on the compression, and about 18 clicks out on the rebound. So 18 to 23, this is what you're looking for, or want to try for. So on the shock, I tried different settings for the high speed compression, low speed compression, and the rebound. So what I noticed immediately, what the harder or slower rebound I've been setting, the less kicking I've been getting over those sections, basically through all these bumps. So right now my rebound in rear is set to something like 3 clicks out only, which seems to be extremely slow when you're pushing the bike, but through that big bumps it seems to be alright. So the bike is not amplifying them anymore, even when there is almost no weight in the rear, because like the front is still in the air, only rear wheel is touching the ground, and even that is just after the bump absorption kind of extending up and riding on the heel of a second, or subsequent bump. Yeah, so that did help it. So I tried the high speed compression settings from full out to full in, and on the full out it was worse because the bike was kind of after the jump on the landing, the shock was compressing too much, and when it had almost no travel left to absorb the next bump with a rear tire. So the high speed compression right now at about quarter turn out from full in. It seems to be like quite a hard setting, but in reality it does work quite well over those bigger jumps. And the low speed compression I tried again completely hard, like halfway, a quarter in, or 3/4 out, like everything I tried in there as well, and it seems to be like it works best at almost like a full out. I think I have about 26 clicks of compression damping totally in this shock, on the low speed compression damping in the shock, and right now it's at about, about 20, something like that, 20 clicks out from full in. So very soft low speed compression damping. That again helps the shock to absorb that kind of a slope, like raising slope of a bump after landing straight into like at the bottom of that bump from the previous jump. And this is where I left it. Again, it's still, even right now, for all this experimentation, and the preload in the shock is approximately 6 turns in. I think this is what I did. And I have a light exhaust in the rear, you can see it here. It's much lighter than the standard. So if you're using standard exhaust, you maybe need more preload. That preload also allows to compensate for the slow rebound damping, because you get a dynamic tension in the spring when you have a slow rebound damping. So you need to play with that and adjust it so what it would feel fine when you're riding on the street as well. Because as I said, the shock spring gets preloaded all the time through the dynamic preload because of a slow rebound damping, if you know what the dynamic tension is. Yeah, so you can add maybe more or less depending on what riding style you prefer. So this is where it is. But even now, for all these settings and experimentation, my conclusion would be that forks are actually too soft. It may be too soft on compression damping too. and the springs as well, I think. So we definitely need harder springs in the front. So the front would actually not just swallow all these big bumps, or not to try swallow them and bottom out, but would actually rather ride like the slopes and help the rear. Because when you ride the slope like that, and the front will jump and then the rear will jump, and when the bike will feel balanced. At the moment the front is too soft, so it tries to absorb all these bigger bumps. And talking about the rear, it still tries to jump over them, so you're getting the kicking in the rear. But with the settings I have right now, I can go much quicker through the same sections, almost like, you know, well, dirt bike style, like, you know, hard enduro style, on the gas and, you know, at high speed. It still gets with occasional kicks, but not so often and not so high, not so bad as it would be with whatever standard sport suspension settings it had. And I tried, as I said, a faster rebound. I tried just amplifies the bumps, and I tried both softer high speed and low speed, harder compression settings, still nothing. I mean, this setup seems to be the only one I found which would work quite well. As I said, it kind of helps to ride these sections quickly. Yeah, so that's a review. But my evaluation is that the bike generically, to improve the situations if you're riding high speed off-road, it definitely needs higher rate springs in the front. And I'm not sure where to get them, because KTM in their manual, they say that it's possible like to set them to 7, I think, 7 or something like that, 7 Newton meters, I think. It's about 6.5 newtons per millimeter, I think, yeah. And you can get them up to 7, I think, with something like that. But you cannot find those springs. At least my local dealership had no clue how to order them. That's quite an interesting situation. Something listed in the repair manual and the owner's manual of a bike, but does not exist when you try to order the part. And I tried Ochlin's, like searching Ochlin's catalog. I couldn't find front springs for this bike. Only those I found were from Hyperpro, but those progressive springs, and this is not something I'm looking for. I'm looking for a straight weight springs. And rear of a bike, well, I don't know where that kicking comes from. Maybe spring is a little bit too harsh for the rear. Maybe the actual rubber damper in the shock, which I already cut big pieces of, the one which is right here. You can see how much of a shock shaft exposed at the moment. So I cut a big piece of it already off, but I'm thinking maybe that is still not sufficient. And I saw by the marks, like the dust marks on the shaft, shock shaft, what I've been using at least all the range up to this rubber damper at the bottom. So I've been actually definitely hitting it. So I'm not sure if that affects the situation somehow. But it feels like, probably by the feel, that it needs a softer spring, but it's hard to say, so I'm not sure about that. It would be nice to try like a softer spring and a harder spring and then compare, you know, what would cure a problem, because I cannot even. Like in the front I can definitely say it needs a harder springs, that's for sure. So in the rear, well, I'm not really sure, so I need to figure that out. Because it's either the bike like compresses the rear too much on the landings, and then it has basically no travel to, you know, compress over the next bump, so it just rides compressed through all of it, and that causing the kicking because the spring is too soft at the moment. Or the situation may be opposite, but it is, you know, just when the front of a bike is almost like in the air, and not, you know, jumping up because of a low let's say not insufficiently soft springs in the front. So that spring is when the rear may be too hard, and it's, you know, tries to put the bike on its nose instead of like compressing over that next slope of a bump, you know, because it has no front point to to stay on. I don't know how to say that right. So I don't know, so about the rear spring I'm not sure. By looking at the sag, it seems like for a dirt bike, let's say, it seems to be too harsh. But yeah, so I don't know. Well, that's maybe requires some experimentation, some more experimentation. But yeah, so these are things. Well, I hope that was helpful, but it was quite an interesting experience, and it definitely confirms what I saw on YouTube regarding this bike. And I think GS is actually no exception. It does the same similar like thing with the rear. And I saw some actually dirt bikes do the same, but it would be interesting to cure it. And it's probably like another question when you cure it, like what would be the behavior of a bike on the road? Because right now, how suspension is set up right now, it's kind of strange, but it does ride. Or, I mean, you can get used to riding it like that on the street as well. So it's not disturbing you ride, so it's quite stable actually. But yeah, maybe not extremely correct for the road riding, but it kind of works. Yeah. So once again, so the front full preload in, the fork position is only caps are showing about triple clamp. Preload full in, compression damping at 3 clicks out, rebound damping between 18 and 23, like choose what you like the best. And in the rear, approximately 6 turns in, or something like that on a preload adjuster, rebound damping at 3 clicks out, compression damping at approximately 20 clicks out, low speed and the high speed compression damping all in the quarter turn approximately out. And that's where it is right now. So thanks a lot for watching this. Hope it will be maybe helpful for some. So if you do some experimentation with that, please post your comments and share your knowledge. So what you find is working or not working for you, and we maybe will have a solution for a collaborative, I don't know, brainstorming of this problem. Alright, thanks a lot, bye bye.